All right, we are live. Let me get the word out and then I can get this started. Give me just a second, y'all. I actually dotted my I's and crossed my T's, so I had both post and spoutable loaded today. Hopefully, won't have too many old lady moments, but no promises here. Welcome to the Bonnet Chronicles. I know it has been a while, so chat may not fill up till later on. I know for a bit of you didn't know whether or not these were even coming back for a bit. We did have a bit of a busy week last week, and then, school stuff prevented me from doing Tuesday's cast. Until the end of the school year, I would really like some understanding on the touch and go ness of it. While testing definitely took us out Tuesday before, this Tuesday we were playing catch up, so we just want to make sure that kiddos done with the school year before I bring Tuesdays back full force. You know, with everything that's currently going on, I definitely think I have to bring Tuesdays back full force. In fact, crap, it's one of the things that I forgot to open up. So I'm going to open up a browser really quick because I was going to take a screenshot of the letter too, but meh, I'm not going to do all that. Let me just get this situated really quick without you seeing my private information. I don't need to protect my account. Just open up my email. Thank you. Good Lord. But as I said, because it has been touch and go for us to do these, I know some of you probably didn't realize that I'd be back tonight, but I was definitely coming back. There was a lot to talk about. One of the things we are definitely going to talk about is the heart of this, but I am going to get to that in just a moment here because, of course, my emails are full of other letters from this campaign, which I'm loving, but I'm also gonna be like, okay. I wanted to find the original letter, but my email is a freaking mess. This is what happens when you're politically active, though. And I'm gonna get to the open in just a moment. I'll have to look for it in a moment. I know it's in there. I might as well just make it easy on myself. Nope, 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 not doing that. Hey, Beans. I'm glad too. I am just like I was worried people thought I wasn't coming back, but I also really have to make sure that kiddo knows that schoolwork comes first. Cause I was getting apologized to by him, and I was like, "You don't have anything to feel sorry for, baby. My friends understand that your schoolwork comes first. I'm never gonna put his education to the side to go live. Worst comes to worst, I can just move the day. I just prefer Tuesdays because they tend to correlate with voting, especially in our country. But if need be, I will change it to another day if I have to. Hopefully, I won't have to. But let me see. There we go. I'm officially running for re-election. I want to read that letter in a bit. But welcome to the Bonnet Chronicles. We're gonna open up today with news that I heard yesterday, and I'm sure that many of you have heard yesterday what happened. Finally, after over 60 years, the spirit of Emmett Till can rest in peace because the woman that was the cause of his demise, with her lies about being whistled at, finally died slow and probably agonizing death to cancer. I didn't want to put her face up there. I don't even want to really utter her name because she got to live 88 years on this earth, downplaying her role in a literal lynching of a 14-year-old black child. She got to act like my role in this wasn't as bad as people made it. She made no apology for the very direct actions that she caused, which led to the death of Emmett Till. So I don't want to give her name any more credence or relevance. If anything, I spiritually hope that the heaven and hell that these people believe in is real, because if it is, she is burning for eternity for her role in this. But she died, and culturally speaking, my people don't tend to speak ill of the dead. It, bad luck, bad karma. We just try not to do it because we don't want that crap to happen to us or ours. But when I say one of my visceral memories as a child, I remember because I was about 7 years old when this happened. And my grandmother, like most black households, had Ebony and Jet. And one of the issues of Jet magazine she had the full funeral photos of Emmett Till. And she had to explain to me because as a child, I ingested everything. I loved reading everything. And I seen those photos. You've seen the before pictures and the after, which I refuse to put up there. It's traumatizing, but if you need to see them, they're available. Mimi Till did not hide what they did to her baby. And at 7 years old, I got my first life lesson about how white people will do us. They beat that baby's face and he was unrecognizable. And they still had an open casket because she wanted the world to see what hate does. So when I say I don't normally speak ill to the dead, but I felt a bit of joy that this baby's spirit could finally rest at peace because he didn't get justice for what happened to him. Most of his killers did not do actual jail time, and that bitch got to live to 88 years as a free woman after she caused the direct lynching of a 14-year-old black child based on a lie. He didn't whistle at her. And even if he did, you can't ignore a catcall? But he didn't. And that's the whole thing. And that is why she tried to downplay it and change the story up. She's a fucking liar. And how many times have white women historically lied, shed tears, caused the death of innocent people, not just black people, but mainly young black men, especially in this country? So I don't like the fact that it took 88 years for cancer to finally do the job that our justice system should have did to this literal murderer. But I am hoping that the Till family can find peace now, that this demon no longer walks among us, that Emmett's spirit has been able to rest in peace, because now all of the people who did this vile act to him are no longer walking this earth. And while they did not see the justice that they should have, they did not get to live good lives, and they did not deserve to live good lives, because I'm going to get to it tonight. The fact that some of you are such loyal foot soldiers for fuckery in a system that doesn't even care about you. And that in 2023, we go from Emmett Till to this young man. And I know some of yous will know exactly who this is. Some of yous are going, who's that, Tin? This is young Mr. believe Ralph, y'all. Let me get his name proper. It could be Richard, but his last name's Jarl. 17-year-old decided that he would go help his family out by picking up his, I believe, younger siblings. I don't think it's cousins, even though a lot of us have family that are cousins that are like brothers and sisters. But every news report said he was going to pick up his siblings to help his family out. He made the unfortunate mistake of knocking on the wrong door. He wasn't aggressive about it. He was, like most teenagers, just looking to get his family and bounce. That's it. 84-year-old white man popped up on Fox News, and the us versus them mentality that has served him no purpose but to make him fearful, hateful, and stupid, opened up his door and shot this baby. Fortunately for us, even though he is going to bear the psychological and physical scars of it, Ralph Yarl will hopefully survive, and he is doing well so far. But the fact that they can even make the defense that he was fearful for his life because somebody knocked on his door, he wasn't breaking into the man's house. He made the simple mistake of getting the addresses mixed up, which a lot of people do. What if this had been a DoorDasher? What if he had been somebody just delivering food to the wrong address? The gun culture mixed with white supremacy, mixed with the fear of anybody that doesn't look like you, shit culminates to stuff like this. And in the land where I can watch an 88-year-old white woman who literally caused the death of a 14-year-old black child get to live out her life, I feel nothing for an 84-year-old bigot who instantly was going to take the life of a young black child because he was fearful. I'm sick of it. We keep making excuses for this. We keep giving it air and breath and platforms because we think, well, it's just this generation, it'll die out. But they're taking our babies with their hate. They're indoctrinating other little stupid motherfuckers who go into our grocery stores, in our churches, in movie theaters, and they take lives. This is why we can't just hope that it'll die out with these 84-year-old fuckers who card-carrying NRA members who think that they have to be fearful. I looked at this young man, and there's several pictures of him. He looks like somebody who could be my nephew. I don't understand what the fuck you're fearing at. What? But this is how they train their brain. They ingest toxic amounts of us versus them from Fox Propaganda Network and other bullshit from our media, because trust me, I wish I could just blame one network for this. But this is a cycle, a repetitive cycle of fear of your own fucking neighbors that we can't keep ignoring because they are literally armed up, ignorant, and ready to fight for no reason. He could have easily answered his door and like, what do you want? Wrong address. Go. And I'm sure that Ralph would have left. He didn't give him a chance. And what bothers me about this whole entire situation is just how unnecessary it is. I understand castle law. I get it. I live in an area that, while not inherently violent, sometimes has issues. I think every major city has issues. If somebody broke into our house, I would want to be able to protect myself. There's a difference. I have literally, because of my neighborhood, had strangers looking for another house come knock. I don't automatically assume that that person who clearly looks like they're looking for something that I definitely don't sell is out to harm me. I always let my vibes go, though. If somebody's knocking and I don't like the way they knock, I'm not going to answer the door. That's just my New York training kicking in. But I'm not going to assume a child, and I've had like a young teenage white boy look really ass scruffy, had the clear signs on his arms that he wasn't doing the right thing. I could have been nasty to him. I could have yelled at him to get the fuck off my property. But no, I opened the door. I asked him what he wanted. He was looking for Alex. And I was like, you've got the wrong house, baby. I don't know where Alex is. You might want to try across the street. See ya. Because that's somebody's child. Yeah, granted, New York me would have been like, okay, you're obviously doing stuff that I don't agree with. But the mom in me goes, I don't want to be like that to somebody's child. Yet our kids are not paid the same respect. Welcome to the chat, HV Daughterless. And what bothers me about Ralph Yarl's situation is you can't politicize this at this point. I know some people are gonna wanna. We could talk about gun violence because we really do need to talk about gun violence. But the underlying, the full belly demon of these issues is how our society continues to vilify black skin. People don't want to talk about it. People don't want to think about it. People want to say it's in the past. But like I said, my first visceral memory as a child was being explained why Emmett Till got beat to death, why he went from a beautiful looking child to just a, I can't unsee his mangled face. They wrapped a motor around his neck and tried to drown him. The amount of vicious cruelty based on Carolyn Bryant's lie, and that's the only time I want to say that witch's name, it stuck with me as a kid. And what kills me is I learned that lesson at 7, and then my son at 7, when we were living in North Carolina, had his first run in with racism. Because some old white man decided that he wanted to try his luck that day and call my son the N word to his detriment. But it was still an experience that every black child in America has to go through, and it has to stop. And I'm going to break down, after I talk about the heart of this podcast, some of the ways we need to identify and stop this, because it really is systemic at this point. But I had to open with this because I would have if I was able to broadcast on Tuesday, because this really is a serious issue, not just for our community, but beyond. Our elders are sitting around ingesting hate mongering and fear tactics. They're armed up and they're ready to fight. And then you've got the flip side, these younger generations being indoctrinated by this senseless hate, arming up and videotaping themselves committing atrocities, throwing their whole lives away, like that Gershon kid and that Ruth kid, because they were kids when they did it. Ruth is a whole ass adult now on death row. I don't get it. But I am going to try my best tonight to break down what I've seen over the years, because this shit don't make sense. But I want to get tonight to the heart of why the topic, the title of this is Biden Harris 2024 is who I'm voting for, because I love my YouTube community. It's growing strong. We're pushing for 1,000, and I appreciate everybody who has followed me on there. And just to remind you, subscribing does not cost you anything. If you're worried about that, you can hit subscribe, and all you'll get is notifications when I put up a video. It costs you nothing. The only thing is YouTube might try to spam you to join their premium, which you don't have to do. But I got my comment section set to whenever I log on, it'll show me the latest and newest topics. And I don't want to call people out. Most of my comment section is always friendly, and the few that try it tend to get shipped into the void. But every once in a while, a comment makes me pause, because you know it was said to you, not with malice, but it still hits you a certain way. And as a black woman, I'm constantly on the defensive when it comes to certain things, because people don't realize how they speak to us. They don't realize how they come across when they approach us for certain things. And I know you don't go out of your way to be offensive when you say it. I know from your place, you're trying to come from a good place. But asking a black woman in this day and age to woke whisperer you has to stop. I'm not strong. I'm resilient because I have to be. But calling me strong is not the compliment that some of you think it is. And this is not to shine light, and I don't want anybody getting hate or being fearful of interacting with me. I just want the tropes to stop. Because that's the kind of burden that already stresses women like me in the early graves. And I've already lost 2 friends to heart disease and shit like that. I don't want no more of this. I can't carry that burden. So I'm making it clear who I'm backing in 2024, since some of you need a clear beacon. I don't quite understand it, Because unless this incumbent has been shitty to you, I don't understand why you need me to say who I'm clearly backing, but I will say it full chest. I am backing President Joe Biden and VP Kamala Harris for their 2024 bid. And in being a solid voter whose emails have blown up with campaign stuff because I donate, I've tried to phone bank when I can, and now text banking is so much better. I do what I can to get the word out, especially with these Bonnet Chronicles. And like all voters who have a good report card, and even those who don't, I'm sure he sent this out to a lot of registered Democrats. I've got this and several other emails just in today. Some from former President Obama, some from Hillary Clinton, some from VP Harris. It's nice to be reached out. And the president sent this letter. Every generation has a moment where they have to stand up for democracy, to stand up for fundamental freedoms. I believe this is ours. That is why I am running for re-election as President of the United States. If you're with me, I hope you let me explain exactly why this campaign matters so much and then consider pitching support to it. When I ran in 2020, I said we were in the battle for the soul of America. We still are. The question before us now is whether we'll have more freedoms or fewer in the years ahead, more rights or fewer. I know what I want the answer to be. Giving folks a little more breathing room, making your life a little freer. This has been the work of my lifetime, and we have made real progress in the last few years. But across the country, MAGA extremists are lining up to take us backwards. They are trying to gut Social Security and Medicare. They are trying to raise the prices on prescription drugs and repeal cost-saving measures we put in place for hard-working families, all while saying we have enough money to cut taxes for the rich. They are telling women that the healthcare choices they're allowed to make. They are telling you a book should be in your kids' schools, and if you don't like it, tough luck. They are going after your right to vote too. But we can stop them. Nothing is beyond our capacity if we do it together. So I'm asking you. And then they ask for money like all campaigns. There's a choice ahead of us. Do we continue to build a future full of opportunities for your family like yours? Or will we turn back the clock? But here's the honest truth. I'm more optimistic than I've ever been. And it is because I've seen what this team can do when it comes together. In 2020, more than 6 million grassroots supporters, just like you, helped propel our campaign to victory. I'm going to pause there because I've worked on several campaigns, both directly as speech writing, non-credited, of course, to actual voting initiatives. And I don't do it for attention. I don't even expect to get noticed. And I know that this is probably a generic email. But when you have the president realize that you're out there doing this, and there were so many of us, whether we called ourselves K-Hive, whether we were Team Pete and still pushing for President Biden, whether we all decided to come together because we knew we couldn't take a chance. We busted our ass and we got it done. And even in the face of, after getting the win, all of those naysayers who were still henny pennying, still saying that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris would be sworn in, y'all sat in silence as we watched that inauguration. Because our hard work would not be denied. So it does touch me a bit, having the president realize that we're out there and we're going to do it again. I know the media wants to spin that some Democrats are unhappy with this current administration, which I don't understand why. Because some of you maybe still don't feel centered. Some of you don't understand what a president coming into 4 years of complete fuckery, both here and abroad, the geopolitical mess that Biden has had to navigate through on top of the domestic mess that he has been cleaning up? Some of you do not understand the hard work that that man has done with VP Harris to clean up the shit that you thought it'll just be a joke. 45 won't be so bad. He just let a literal pandemic ravish us, downplayed it. He traded secrets, stole documents, committed acts of more than likely foreign and domestic espionage, caused the death of soldiers here and abroad, caused the death of allies abroad, made migrant families go through atrocities. And this administration had to come in from absolutely nothing and build up. And I refuse to let addle-brained idiots take that from us, because you need a strong black woman to tell you that you don't vote against the incumbent that's doing the job. I can't believe I even have to say this to anybody who considers themselves a Democrat at this point. But some of you have shown me yet again that you're not feeling centered enough, that you're definitely not pragmatists, that you don't understand that everybody being lifted up means sometimes you don't feel directly catered to. Sometimes you don't feel that spotlight. Sometimes you don't get emails from the president saying that he sees you directly. But even I understood what President Biden was saying in that email. He understood that 6 million of us. And that's why it touched me, because I knew I've been doing the thing. And I know that I wasn't the only one that felt that emotion, because there are 6 million of us who have been doing the thing. We don't get thanks. We get, oh, black women, I need your strength instead. And I need you to understand that it's not just a presidential election that you should be paying attention to. Your local politicians will affect policy, because even with a Democratic president, we still have states committing fuckery against women's rights, against LGBTQ rights. We literally have a fucker in Mississippi that has committed welfare fraud with Brett Favre, while towns are suffering from literal water crises. You know what happened here in Michigan when we had the Flint crisis? We got rid of the old governor. Our new governor has been building infrastructure, protecting women and LGBTQ rights, and funneling all the money that we make from legalized marijuana into doing better by Michigan. That's what happens when your local legislators match your national. But some of you couldn't be bothered with that. And then you come to women like me asking me, well, where do you lean? I lean in the side of harm reduction. I lean in the side of people who will work hard for all of us, even if they don't look like us. I lean hard in the section of even the people who hate me vehemently need to be better off, because maybe they'll be less ample to come and bother my neighborhoods. I want a better America, and I can't do it alone. So if you need a black woman, whether we're strong or not, to guide you on the right track, none of the populism bullshit that might come out from Vermont Maple guy, because we know he's lurking. We know he might need another mansion somewhere. No more Lizzie, I don't know what identity I am. We have a solid presidential team running next year. And I don't trust any Democrat that tosses their hat in against the incumbent right now that's doing their job. In fact, they will get all my side eye at this point. Anybody asking me personally why I'm backing Joe Biden? Have you not seen these last few years? I am boosted 4 times because we finally got a vaccine rollout. I was able to go to a college with my kid because I felt safer, because I have my boosters. Something that I still don't like going out of my house because of agoraphobia, but I can at least do so when I have to now. I couldn't say that in 2020. And the fact of the matter is, our media isn't helping this attitude, because they get a small subset of angry, disaffected white people that don't feel centered Because in the sea of Democrats, instead of seeing us all as one people, you still want messages that talk about your wealth, your status, your issues. Everything else for you is just identity politics. And until you get out of that mindset, you'll still look at people like me to see how we vote instead of having your own opinions on this. And that shit's got to stop. I'm not saying you can't like who you like. I'm sure some of you still are big time Liz Warren fans. I know you get on me sometimes about how I talk about Mima, but I just don't like her. And I'm not going to pretend to like her. That's just my personality. If she had won the nomination, I would have ate crow and tried to vote for her, but I know she wouldn't have won. And it's not because she's a woman, it's because she's not fit to lead our nation. We don't need any more frauds. And the problem with our country is when you have genuine people, even if they've messed up, even if they've misstepped in their careers. Joe Biden has had a long career of both good decisions and bad decisions because guess what? He's human. But he cares about America in whole. And he wants to be president of all of us. And some of you want that us versus them mentality like this is a gladiatorial sport, and we can't afford that anymore. We have 4 years of that with the fallout of 45, and it costs way too many lives. We need uplifting. We need an actual United States, and we will get that with President Biden and VP Harris. So if you need any more clarity on where I'm leaning next year, there you go. I can't believe I even have to say this. I don't think I've ever expressed that I wasn't going to vote for President Biden and VP Harris. I made it clear last few times on the old site how I felt about how I'm going to support the 2024 bid. But I get it when you're inundated by news articles and media online and cable network trying to tell you how Dems are dissatisfied and all the ageism. And not just against Joe Biden. I've seen some of the Feinstein shit. Now you're trying to blame her for holding stuff up. That's not, no. Stop it. Because the same people that will say Joe Biden is too old will jump on the Team Bernie Brigade, jump on the Liz Warren Brigade, and we can't even trust what the Republicans are going to support. They're either going to support that old-ass pancake-wearing motherfucker who's already doing a victory lap like he's not going down for indictments, or that idiot in Florida who's trying to change the laws where he could still run and be governor. It's fucking mess. We are not up against a smart brigade. We are up against a steady brigade, and they don't care that they're killing their own people off. They don't even care that their systems don't work. Kevin McCarthy has been wasting our time yet again, like he did in his bid to be Speaker of the House. That's why it took him 14 tries, trying to push this debt ceiling bill that is nothing but extortion. As the senator of Massachusetts, I forget his name, so I don't want to get that wrong, has said. The GOP has shown us over and over again that if we allow them to control any parts of our government, it is bad. From our Supreme Court, which is currently stacked with an insurrectionist's husband, the handmaiden, beer guy, Gorsh. And while we have Kagan and now Ketanji Jackson Brown, it is not enough when you've got most of the Supreme Court stacked in the favor of repealing our rights. So what do we need to do about that is not only get local legislators who will question the ethics of a Supreme Court justice who have taken sizable gifts from questionable donors and acts like they don't have to report it, who literally has ties to the January 6th insurrection, and require them to step down. But when you don't have a local and state legislator that gives a crap, that can't happen. As much as you think a president can just wave a magic wand and make certain bad things disappear, that's not how this works. We have to give Joe Biden a solid Senate, a solid House, and we have to work on a local level to weed these time wasters out. I was talking to Greg before I started this cast about reaching out last year when we had that shooting that wasn't too far from here, not the college that happened this year. No, last year around Christmas, we had a young man, disturbed young man, murder 7 people at a high school. And I wrote to several Michigan politicians about the need to regulate guns. We need gun control. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's time. Civilians shouldn't have access to military grade weapons. There should be a registry for gun owners so that we take this seriously if their guns are used in a serious offense. One Republican wrote me back that he had to agree to disagree with me. That the lives of young people who were just going to school that day wasn't enough for him to see the need for gun control. This is what we're up against. And it's far, like, I ingested so much this week. There was a case down in Florida where these young kids turned on this other group of young kids, committed a horrendous act of violence. I am not going to excuse or justify what they did, but I will say that the police chief getting on a national docket talking about this isn't an issue with the guns, this is about parenting, and he's right. There are some parents that don't take the fuck care of their kids. But the issue is gun violence too, because they shouldn't have been able to get their hands on weapons. But your state seems to be loosey-goosey with the rules with that. And that's why they were able to gangbang or cosplay gangbang. They don't have their hands on the weapon. They can't use the weapon, man. But oh, you can't tell an old white man not to blame guns. That's a bridge too far. And that's why we get 84-year-old grandpas gunning down innocent people. It's so frustrating and infuriating to me, the amount of BS that we put up with. But on top of that, you sometimes have amazing stuff. And when I say amazing stuff, I fell down the rabbit hole without creating a TikTok of social conscience TikTok. And I had got to listen to this young lady. I'm going to say young lady. She's probably around my age, but she might not be. And when I say she almost made me get a TikTok, but I am too old and don't want to deal with another social media. So I'm glad I don't have to sign up to watch the videos. And then I'm even gladder for YouTube, which does compilations. I just want you to get a bit of this. I'm telling you, this woman made me almost get TikTok. So let me get this fired up.
What in the holy onomatopoeia is that? This has to be one of the most incoherent emotional tantrums of a comment that I've ever received. And I've been thinking about the amount of fragility and raw negative emotion that I encounter when I'm talking about historical truths and ongoing consequences. And it makes me imagine that it must feel like being a fully grown adult and finding out all in one go from a complete stranger that Santa Claus, the Easter Bunny, and the Tooth Fairy are all not real. And your parents and your teachers told you they're real, all your friends believe they're real, all your life you've been pat on the head and given participation trophies. Everything in your life has encouraged you to believe that they're real because it feels good and it's comfortable. And you hear from a stranger that they're not real. And you look around and you realize that a lot of people knew that they're not real. In fact, many people have been let in on a truth that was kept from you. And that has to suck. That has to be a rude awakening. And it's not that I don't have sympathy for that. It's just that, like a lot of marginalized people, I don't have the time and energy to coddle desperate attempts to stay asleep or to gaslight. Because the fictions that you have been told that make you feel good and that you benefit from were upheld at our expense. But if hearing me calmly talk about history and the truth makes you hear boo hoo 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 and a lot of crying and tears, you've been hanging out around too many Karens. Ugh. I know that this commenter is a troll, but this question was way too good to take a pass on. If you ask most non-white people why they speak English, they'll tell you that it has to do with colonization and forced cultural erasure. And it takes a very special group of people to go around the world colonizing others and forcing them to speak English to erase their culture, and then lying to their own offspring about the history of it so that people like you come back generations later and ask us why we keep speaking English. And you wonder why none of us want you on our team.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that black people are 7.5 times more likely to be falsely accused and convicted of a crime than white people, and that black people make up 12.6% of the population, but 53% of the exonerations for unaliving is an everyone problem that's very telling. How about we call out that criminal justice problem? The
Mm-hmm.
accusation of gaslighting is ironic because you're questioning whether I made up something that hundreds of thousands of people saw. And although knowing history is important to understanding current systems of oppression, the video that you left this comment on was entirely about current issues. However, I do agree with you. There are certain things that happened so long ago that we really do need to let go of them so we can progress and move on. For example, what happened to the Native Americans was a long time ago, and the Civil War was a long time ago. People need to stop living in the past. So when people are ready to let go of their offensive mascots and things like the tomahawk chop, and they are ready to respect Native sovereignty and treaty rights, and when people are ready to let go of their Confederate flags, statues, monuments, school names, and road names that memorialize and glorify enslavers and perpetrators of mass unalivings, I suspect that people like me will be ready to talk less about history and systemic racism.
Boom.
I have no problem with white people who do not uphold white supremacy culture. I have a problem with the colonial past of countries that establish white supremacy culture here in the United States, which continues to benefit white people at the expense of especially black and indigenous as well as other people of color. And I provide the
Mm-hmm.
content that I do for people like myself who recognize that we were indoctrinated into white supremacy culture by an education system that teaches a carefully curated version of history that was deliberately designed to conceal the United States' inherently racist past so that we would not be able to recognize the patterns of behavior and governance that contribute to upholding systemic racism today.
She
And
is
for the
a
white people
whore.
who hear me talking about history and who hear me talking about white supremacy culture and associate themselves with those things, they need to take some time to ask themselves why they make those associations. I don't make those associations. I am not able to. And anti-racist white people do not make those associations. They recognize that the information that I am providing is valuable because understanding history from an objective point of view is vital to dismantling white supremacy culture and fighting against systemic racism. Are
She
you
just
sure you
kept
wanted to ask me
going.
this question? Because if it's genuine, I'm about to give the answer, but I'm inclined to think that it is
Hey,
disingenuous and
Terry.
ignorant because you're thinking by definition a civil war is something that happens among people in a
I'm gonna
country.
let
So
this
there's no
last
way that white
one
people
and then I'm
caused
gonna
the typing
pause it.
rebellion and the resulting famine. That's also narcissistic because you're taking something that you don't think has anything to do with you or white people and you're centering yourself and asking me to make it about white people.
Mm-hmm.
Lucky for you, I'm feeling agreeable, so I'm going to give you what you asked for. Before the Taiping Rebellion was the first Opium War where the British military invaded China to colonize it because it wanted China's natural resources. And this exploited weaknesses in the Qing dynasty, which was not able to defend itself against the British Navy.
For real, I would watch it.
I'm sure there are people who are thinking it's because China was more primitive than the British, and the British were far more advanced as far as violence, warfare, manipulation, subterfuge, and colonization go. So after the first Opium War, China was weakened with a countrywide opium addiction problem. They had ceded Hong Kong to the British, and the British had opened 5 ports around China and was siphoning off China's silver, gold, and other natural resources. Now, the Chinese person who started the Taiping Rebellion had years before met a white Christian missionary. White Christian missionaries being another favorite tool of white people other than ships and guns to stick their noses where it doesn't belong. And after failing his imperial exam multiple times, that person was frustrated, read the Christian pamphlets, decided that he was a brother of Jesus Christ, and began burning Confucian and Buddhist statues. And you have the beginning of the Taiping Rebellion, which was about getting Han people to convert to Christianity to overthrow the Qing dynasty to establish a religious order. And that is how white people contributed to the civil war and famine in China. Now, for commenters who are going to say that I cherry pick history in order to intentionally make white people look bad, please take some
I know. Why do they do this? You two, come on. I don't need your ads, man.
accountability for the fact that I wasn't going to talk about any of this except I was literally asked. Important.
Yeah, she just kept going off. I could spend a whole hour Just she's got so many, and I linked her TikTok, and I will have it in the show notes. I legitimately almost created a TikTok account, but I realized that what she's doing was what I was doing on Twitter for years, clapping back at people who would come at me with the most nonsensical racist stuff, the most fragile takes on not all white people, or why are you trying to make this about race. I even said it on Spoutable earlier. When you ask somebody who is marginalized why we politicize everything, when our legitimate survival is inherited to who represents us, because we have watched governments turn against people. If you are LGBTQ right now, and in any other states that have don't say gay bills, and I can't just say it's happening in the South because the Midwest is no better. If you're a woman right now worried that you can't get certain medications, that you might literally die out from an unviable pregnancy, this is on you. America has this invisible caste system that so many of you don't want to see. And I'm grateful for voices like Amy Chen, that is her name. I want to definitely give credit to Amy Chen and her TikTok. If you have a TikTok, I would suggest you follow her with the link. She is an amazing woman because she does a lot of what people like me do. We study the historical facts. I don't have to personally insult people. That's one of the main reasons why Twitter blew up for me the way it did, because I wasn't out there calling people the bozos I thought they were. I would just counter their ignorant narrative with facts, because that's all we have to do. And if you're doing the work of anti racism, it is not your job to fight everybody, but having these facts will help you when they bring that. You've seen some of the comments she was getting. One guy didn't even give a real comment, he just made a bunch of boo hoo noises. This is the ignorance that you would constantly be battling on social media if you allowed it. And I've already said, don't bring that shit on Spoutable. Because not only am I going to shut it down really quick, but you will probably get kicked off at this point. We're not going to do that. And I have no intention of joining Blue Sky or anything Jack built, because he already burnt me once with Twitter. He will never get the chance to burn me again. The problem with our country, though, is there are a lot of people that want to take credit for certain things. And that's why I hope more of you will listen to Dr. Well, I don't know if she's a doctor. I believe she's a PhD. Well, Miss Amy Chen, because she makes such clear points about colonization, about who benefits from systemic racism. And you would be surprised, because a lot of white people think that systemic racism means all white people benefit from it. And no, baby, I'm here to try to educate some of yous on this. Because some of yous are little foot soldiers for fuckery. Yous are no better than the serfs who pillaged and toiled for some white people who just said, well, I was born better than you, so you have to serve under me. And you get no better lot in life because they promised you some better afterlife, which you don't even know if you're going to get. They destroy your neighborhoods just as quick as they destroy people like mine. Yet you properly line up to be their lapdog so that they can point and go, no, black person, that's the obvious racist. They don't have the education as I do. Don't look my way as me and my people organized to make sure that we get a tax cut at your neighborhood's expense. And some of you don't even want to be politically aware until you have to be. I'm looking at you, Ohio, who literally just had one of the worst environmental incidents in your area with that train derailment and them lighting the chemicals on fire. It took your neck of the woods to get the same shit that our neighborhoods have been going through for years now. I remember New York, South Bronx especially. They used to just let literal slumlords burn up buildings with whole ass families in them. Environmental wars on communities ain't nothing new to those of us who have been surviving in America. So when I say you've got to open your eyes and stop being so anti-woke, because woke helps you too. I know you think, oh, I can't be with them. Then how do I feel like I'm the better person? But how are you feeling like the better person just being the bigot? Living in fear of people that are literal humans just like you, but just happen to have different skin tones or facial features. How's that life serving you at this point? You help that invisible caste system. You are the untouchables and undesirables to the people who think they're better than you. And I need you to understand that. They will use you as your Proud Boy monikers. They will watch you commit atrocities and then throw your life away, either on death row or life in prison. You will become martyrs to a fucking lost cause. For what? When all we're asking for is a bit of equality and equity so that we can get somewhere. I had Greg laughing because I was talking to him about being a child of the literal 80s. I was born in the end of the 70s, and I grew up literally in the 80s and 90s. If you were told 80s and 90s 10, what would you be doing in the year 2023? That was supposed to be the future, man. I'm old enough to where this current date for me back then was supposed to be futuristic. I thought we'd have like flying cars, chrome shit. We'd be on other planets exploring. And yet, the last few days, I've been ingesting news articles that are suggesting that China's gonna usher us into World War III if the Russian people don't do it. It's like my childhood over and over because we had the whole Red Scare back in the day of the Kremlin doing dirty. Nuclear threat left, right, and center. And instead of taking our collective ability to think and actually moving forward, we'd rather find ways to divide and fight each other, and it's got to stop. But when I say that America has an invisible caste system, it's not really invisible to those of us who have been othered. We've already, just by guilt of having brown, black, or features that are heavily Asian, been listed as undesirable or useful if we uphold white supremacy for them. If you got enough self-hate, they'll let you in just a little bit. But for the rest of yous, if you don't make a certain amount of money, if you are struggling, if you are rural, you will never be considered on the same level as the supposed desirables in our country. And that shouldn't just make you angry at your lot in life. It should make you more proactive to work in a system that lifts us all up. I don't want you to like me. I'm not a very likable person. I know people say Tin don't say that, but it's the reality. I am a grump curmudgeon writer that is in my head most of the time. I can be civil, but I can also tell you to go fuck yourself if I'm feeling that way. I'm just who I am, and I feel like I attract the people that want to be around me in spite of that. I think being your real you is the only way to be, whether you're online or offline. But the fact of the matter is, this isn't about a kumbaya moment because that is not realistic. It is about making things better and stable for all of us. I would love to one day dismantle all the bigotry, not just systemic racism, sexism, worrying about people's sexual orientation. There is a lot to do. But if we can just start to open white people's eyes to the fact that you're never going to have a higher place and that looking down on other people might give you a little bit of a dopamine hit, but it ain't stopping your communities from being run into the ground by rich motherfuckers who will tell you, we're on your side as long as you hate for us. We're on your side, but we're going to make you be the fall guy when shit don't go right. You'll wear the Make America Great Again slogan, but for who? Because it wasn't for you. And if you were honest, the last 4 years under Trump did y'all the dirtiest. That's why you were huffing HP and cow dewormer instead of getting the vaccine that could have kept you here. That's why we had constant streams of news stories of young kids losing both their parents because they couldn't be told what to do by the government and they weren't going to get no 5G vaccine. It's a fucking mess. And I'm tired of seeing my countrymen, whether you want to accept that we're countrymen, die from your ignorance. Is that ideology worth dying for at this point? Because it can't be. Some of you are angry and you don't know why. fearful and you don't know why. I'm not gonna act like my people are perfect. We got our bad eggs. Every group does. But what I was telling Greg, and I'm serious, we are gonna start in our house to stop calling our house biracial because we're last I checked, I'm human, he's human, kiddo's human. The only other species in my house currently is a cat. We're a multi-ethnic human family. We are all American, so we all identify by that identity too. There's absolutely no reason to keep the eugenics language strong. It's just a small step to stop this nonsense. And I know it's not going to be easy. I know people, oh, there you go. I knew you were going to start that woke SJW stuff, Tin. Why can't I say? I'm not saying you can't say biracial. I do not. I need to make it clear. What I dictate for me and mine does not have to be how you carry yourself if you're more comfortable saying that. But I am saying that the whole idea of classifying humans by skin tone as a whole different species has bothered me since its inception. And that if we are going to get away from racism, we need to really start treating each other as one human race that has multiple ethnicities. We can embrace our culture without separating ourselves as a species. We're not like the animal kingdom. You can clearly tell an octopus from a tiger. You can tell an elephant from a caterpillar. So yes, there are certain classifications in genus species, but we still call them all animals. But with humans, the only thing that we have managed to do is separate ethnicities as if there's a spectrum of good and bad. And the darker you are, the more your features are exaggerated ethnically, the more ostracized you are. And we have got to work on stopping that ignorance in its tracks. It's not going to be an overnight thing. But I am glad for the TikTok videos that I've seen. I've watched so many compilations. Some I agreed with, some I definitely didn't agree with. But one of the things I have seen is a crop of young people that not only know their history, because we're getting ignorance from all over the place. I seen that one weird Italian guy on TikTok talking about it was 500 years ago. Why don't you get over it? And it's like, my grandparents marched for civil rights. They had dogs and hoses turned on them. And that was after one of my grandfathers came back from fighting the Nazis in World War II. And the other one fought in the Korean War. And the fact that there are people out there to say that it's in the past without knowing that there was so much recent history. I have a Filipino family that had to deal with the fallout of anti-Asian sentiment that crops up every few years. This isn't nothing new. The COVID stuff was just a rehash of the stuff they went back to from World War One. This has been ongoing. World War One started it. World War Two brought it back. The Korean War, Vietnam, any chance they could to discriminate against Asian Americans, they did it. It's nothing new. And what troubles me is the amount of white people that act like, especially overseas, that, oh, you can't make fun of colonization because America still has colonies. And you had a young woman from Puerto Rico, which I fully understand the point she was making, especially being in Puerto Rico and having Americans come in, utilize your resources, pay a lesser tax bracket while your people are struggling. It's fucked up. But to say that we all benefited from it without understanding that there are several Americans, black, white, and in between, that haven't benefited from colonization, yeah, no. This is why, while I have hope for our younger generation because they do have some information, I hope to help curb some of the misinformation too. Because it's real fun to lump us all into one when you're blaming us for welfare stuff, like that weirdo Greek guy that was like, well, black people are claiming Cleopatra because we don't have heroes. We have plenty of heroes. We're just not allowed to teach them because it's called CRT. And last I checked, because we're a melting pot of different ethnicities, even though my skin is clearly black, I am both Native and Asian American. So, yeah, I don't quite understand the point he was making, but there are plenty of black Greeks too. So, yeah, I legit I don't understand why you think we can't claim historical figures if we want. African Americans are a melting pot of cultures, whether we want it to be or not. I'm pretty damn sure my last name Walker is German. So, yeah, shut the fuck up. I'm tired of bigots dictating the narratives because you serve no purpose but to spread ignorance. And I'm tired of marginalized people feeling like there's nothing we can do. We have the path forward. It's through education, which we can get ourselves now. We have the devices that are like almost a fucking cosmic cube to nerd it up. You can find relevant information online. There are people that wrote books. My friend Letitia, I'm butchering her name. I am sorry. She wrote the White People's Ally Guide to Ally, and I'm butchering everything. I am just tired, y'all. Sorry. I will get Leisha Michelle. I will get her links on there as well. There are plenty of black women, white women, indigenous women who have not only websites, books, ways to show you how recent the history is. They were like, "Oh, it's 50 generations ago that yous were lynched." No. A young man just got shot ringing the wrong doorbell because a white man was in fear for his life. Not to mention Tyree Nichols, who died to black people upholding white supremacy in the form of police officers. But even beyond that, Philadelphia in 83 literally had the government dropping bombs on black neighborhoods to weed out a supposed group. They kept the bodies of the children that they murdered in that bomb dropping, too. Said that the museum had a historical reason to keep the bodies of our babies. Didn't give them a proper burial until we fought for it. That's the kind of shit that we are up against. And that's why I'm begging you to not just pay attention to the national election. Who is representing you? Who is in charge of your legislative branch in your state? Because it could be the difference between your governor utilizing money to benefit all of your state or your governor picking a fight with fucking Disney because he wants to make life harder for transgender and LGBTQ citizens in their state. The choice is y'all's. We can only do so much, and you've got to stop looking at women like me as just guides and start seeing things before it comes to your door. One of the TikToks, before I wrap this up, that really set me off was the white woman that was like, "I'm a lesbian. My son is LGBTQ. Why didn't we listen to black women?" Why? I don't know. I don't think I've been particularly harsh to anybody who has legitimate questions and concerns. I might be rubbed the wrong way if you approach me the wrong way, but I try to answer earnestly my views on politics, social issues. It isn't to bring up racism to make white people feel guilty for being white. That whole narrative in itself is a racist talking point to keep white people from thinking critically about this. You were supposed to condemn the act of hate. If you cannot condemn the act of hate and you associate yourself to it, that says a lot about you. When we talk about acts of actual racism and bigotry, if your first instinct is to not all, you might need to check whether you're really in that club because anybody who isn't doing dirty shouldn't feel targeted by talks of actual dirty deeds. But some of you know you ain't as clean as you think you are. And that's why you get upset when you hear talks of racism. That's why you get on TikTok talking about calling all white people racist. It's bad because you hurt our feelings. And it's not about your feelings. It's about you understanding that even if you are not a Klan robe wearing, Confederate flag holding, I need to call everybody a ethnic slur type person. If you're not actively working towards dismantling the system, you're supporting the system. And I'll flip you on your head too. There are plenty of people that look like me that also support the system. We can't even begin to collect them because it's far too lucrative for them to continue to do that. Looking at no edge Candace from the side. I need Americans, especially, because I can't talk for other countries. I would love to, but that ain't my place. And I don't have the energy to do this on a global scale. My country is still burning. And while we have strong center leadership in the president, nothing's promised because I took that chance in 2015 that you guys would get it together, that you would listen to us black women who were saying what was on the line. We got called hyperbolic. We got told, we don't know what we don't like about Hillary, but we just don't like her enough. Or how bad can it be? Sure, the man admitted to sexually assaulting people by grabbing them, whether they wanted it or not. Sure, he mocked the disabled reporter in front of everybody, and his party did not call him out or say, hey, you can't run for us. Sure, it was 4 years of hell, but some of you's lying right back up in 2020 and said, thank you, sir, may I have another? It wasn't abusive enough. Let's have 4 more years of your awfulness. So no, I can't trust that the constant inundation of our media who thinks that it'd be cutesy to have another horse race. I can't trust some of you that didn't feel centered in these last few years, even though you're safe enough to still be here to complain. I don't understand your level of entitlement, but I know it's there. And I know that us, the 6 million who did the grassroots, who got the thanks from President Biden, we're going to have to work our ass off because some of you are still asking us what to do next year when the only thing you need to do is make sure you vote Biden Harris. But I've seen the misogynoir. I know I've seen on their side it was given. Nikki Haley, who's questionable herself, talking about, well, if Biden doesn't make it for his whole 4 years, are you really prepared for a President Harris? Bitch, we've been prepared for a President Harris. But some of you's on our side that think that you're smiling hard enough in our face while you're going to try to stab us in the back. You're not fooling us. Black women don't trust you. We don't trust you for a reason. Because when we had one of the most qualified candidates to ever run, since Barack Obama at least, you said she wasn't good enough. She didn't feel genuine enough to you. You left us out in the cold, and we're paying for it on a state-by-state basis by losing rights that should have been codified by now. So when I say, don't just say that you want to act like, vote like, or listen to black women, and then constantly ask us what we're going to do, because collectively, a lot of us have expressed our constant support of this current administration. I know a lot of us don't work in media, and I know that some of the visible sister girls like Joyanne Reed are sometimes questionable. But for the most part, if you are a Democrat and you think the smart play is to do anything to hurt the current incumbent administration, you're not strategic and you cannot sit with me. It doesn't even make sense that I have to say this. Why are you even worrying about the national election if you know President Biden and VP Harris are running? You should be focused on your local elections. That is all I am going to say to anybody who needs my political take for the next 4 years even. Focus on your state and local elections, because we cannot afford a House wasting our time the way they have been. And we finally got a Senate majority, and even that stalls because the House is wasting our time. We need people who are going to do their jobs. And it is on us, the voters, those who can vote, Those who risk it all to vote cannot carry youth. Those of you who don't have long lines, those of you who are not being redistricted and gerrymandered, those of you who never get asked for ID, those of you who live in states like mine who have very clear absentee and vote by mail ballot systems, there is absolutely no excuse for you not to be politically aware. You have access to Ballotpedia and other resources at your fingertip to know who's running for what. And if you don't understand, there are literal groups that can help you based on your county on who's running for what. And even if you don't trust that and you just want to ask your friend's opinion, I got an email from another friend because she doesn't live in my state, but somebody she is friends with is running. I looked at his ad. Wasn't really my cup of tea because, once again, I feel like a certain demographic feels like they have to pander a certain way to get seen. And as a black woman, I'm just not into it. I am more for candidates that want a solid foundation for all of us. I know it's not realistic, and I know that a lot of people have to navigate white fragility, but I'm tired of Democrats who don't realize that we have to be in it together. All of us. And you can't just pander to black Dems as a side thing. I don't know what else to tell people who ask me for political advice except keep your eyes open. Understand that even if it doesn't directly phase or impact you, nobody should be harming young children who just happen to be trans. Nobody should be telling Americans that they can't read a book because it'll make them too woke. Nobody should be denying actual American history because it happens to show the black experience, both positive and negative. But that is where the Republicans are trying to lead us. And it is on us to make sure that that doesn't happen. They have a lot of character actors left. People that want to do documentary series about what it means to be a woman because they want to control the narrative of so much stuff when they don't even understand what it means to be human in their self. Pseudo intellectual bullshit that keeps us divided, fighting, and struggling in a world that should be prosperous. There is so much that I want to continue to talk on this, but it is getting late, so I'm going to get ready to wrap this up. But I just want you to know that if you're looking to where I'm voting next year, my president already said he's running. That's where my vote's going. Biden Harris 2024, and then preferably Harris and whoever she picks 2028. Buttigieg down the line as well, because I feel like he has shown me that he will be a good president down the line. Definitely. He's getting all the skill sets. He is doing his job as a transportation secretary, and that has not been easy with all the tragedies and issues. I feel like we have a good crop of strong Democrats. Looking at those young men from Tennessee, we're in a good place for our party, but we need all hands on deck. We cannot keep playing these games because the Republicans will regress us back if we let them. But I'm going to get ready to wrap it up. I am hopeful that I will be back on Tuesday because I really do feel like I could fully address the American caste system fuller. But I definitely want to highlight Amy Chen. I definitely want to talk about the young y'all child. And I definitely wanted to talk about the fact that Emmett Till's final killer met their demise. I thank you all for sitting in with me. Terry Antico, HV Douglas, Beans as always. You are amazing. Everybody who lurks, everybody who has been following us on Spoutable and stuff, I appreciate you all. I am working hard on the next book to the Human Evolution Project series that I'm working on, and so much good stuff is coming down the pike. I am so excited for the future. But I have to get ready to wrap this up, get some dinner made for Axiom Wolf and I. I appreciate you all for sitting in, and I will definitely be back, hopefully next week, with a new Bonnet Chronicles. And I don't know if he's listening, so I am going to fire this up if I can. Let's see. The problem with that. There we go. There we go. I will fire it up. There we go. All right, y'all. You have a great weekend. I will see you all hopefully on Tuesday. If not, I will see you back on Friday for a new Bonnet Chronicles. You take it easy. Love y'all. Have a great weekend.